Atlanta, 2075. Every major transportation mode on Earth converges here. The world's busiest airport expanded tenfold. High-speed rail connects 4 continents via underwater tunnels. Hyperloop networks radiate to every American city. Autonomous vehicle highways stack 5 levels deep. 20 million people pass through Atlanta daily. Nobody stays. This is the story of how Atlanta became humanity's crossroads, the city everyone travels through but nobody lives in. Welcome to the perpetual layover. It started logically. Atlanta was already the world's busiest airport in 2020. Central location, flat terrain, and favorable weather made it ideal. When climate change devastated coastal ports and airports in the 2030s, Atlanta's inland position became strategic advantage. Miami International flooded. LAX faced earthquakes and sea level rise. JFK was abandoned. Investment poured into Atlanta. Geography became destiny. The city that served the South became gateway to the world. Hartsfield-Jackson Airport expanded beyond recognition. It now covers 100 square miles, larger than some cities. Terminal Z opened in 2067, 20 miles from Terminal A. Internal trains move passengers between terminals faster than planes once flew between cities. The airport employs 2 million people. It has its own governance, police force, and tax base. The airport isn't in Atlanta anymore. It is Atlanta. City became airport accessory. The transatlantic Maglev connects Atlanta to London in 90 minutes via underwater tunnel. Engineering marvel completed in 2058 after 30 years of construction. The tunnel runs 300 feet below the ocean floor for 3,000 miles. Millions cross the Atlantic daily for business, returning home by dinner. Geography became irrelevant. Distance died. Atlanta and London are functionally one metropolitan region. Oceans stopped mattering. The Hyperloop network radiates from Atlanta to 30 American cities. Chicago, 18 minutes. New York, 27 minutes. Houston, 15 minutes. Every major city became Atlanta's suburb. People live in Austin and work in Atlanta. Commute from Miami for lunch meetings. Distance collapsed into time. The entire eastern seaboard became one functional city with Atlanta as nucleus. Geography compressed. Space became time. Physical location became scheduling detail. James Mitchell works air traffic control at Hartsfield-Jackson. He manages 50,000 flights daily, more than entire global aviation in 2020. AI systems handle routing, but humans supervise. The scale is overwhelming. Planes land every 15 seconds on 40 parallel runways. His screens show aircraft density impossible to comprehend. When asked if he ever leaves the airport, he laughs. Why would I? Everything I need is here. The world comes to me. He hasn't left in 3 years. The old Atlanta, the city of neighborhoods, culture, history, still exists, but barely. Midtown, Buckhead, and Little Five Points survive as historic districts. But they're museums now. Tourist attractions between connecting flights. Real Atlanta is the airport, the terminals, the transit hubs. Cultural Atlanta is what people see between planes. Identity became layover entertainment. Heritage became waiting room distraction. The city worth preserving became the city nobody has time for. Housing evolved strangely. Most Atlanta residents live in residential towers built inside or adjacent to transportation terminals. You wake in your apartment, take elevator to Hyperloop platform, commute to New York for work, return for dinner. Never go outside. Never experience weather. Never leave climate-controlled infrastructure. Entire lives lived in transit ecosystem. Home became node in transportation network. Residence became connection point. Living became layover between destinations. The economic model transformed completely. Atlanta doesn't produce anything. It moves everything. The entire economy is logistics, hospitality, and transit services. Restaurants feed travelers. Hotels house layovers. Warehouses distribute goods globally. Manufacturing happens elsewhere. Creation happens elsewhere. Atlanta is pure infrastructure. The city became verb not noun. Transportation not destination. Process not place. Function without identity. Surprisingly, traffic disappeared. When everyone travels via rail, Hyperloop, and autonomous vehicles, personal cars became obsolete. Streets are empty. The legendary Atlanta traffic jams are historical curiosity. But nobody celebrates because nobody drives. The problem was solved after it stopped mattering. Urban highways were converted to drone delivery routes and autonomous freight corridors. The infrastructure that defined Atlanta became obsolete the moment it worked properly. Success through irrelevance. The population paradox defines Atlanta. 20 million people pass through daily. Only 3 million actually live here. The transient population exceeds permanent by 7 to 1. Demographic statistics are meaningless. Who is Atlanta? The people born here? The people sleeping here tonight? The people passing through? Identity became impossible to define. Atlanta is everyone's city and nobody's home. Belonging requires permanence. Permanence doesn't exist here. Culture adapted to transience. Museums curate exhibits viewable in 30 minutes. Restaurants serve excellent fast food. Entertainment is optimized for layovers. Nothing requires commitment. Everything accommodates departure. Atlanta perfected shallow engagement. Deep connection became impossible when everyone leaves. The city caters to people passing through, alienating people trying to stay. Cultural depth requires time. Time doesn't exist in Transit Hub. The educational system collapsed, then rebuilt. Traditional schools couldn't function when families moved constantly for transit jobs. Digital learning became default. Children attend virtual schools from airport residential towers. They have classmates worldwide, but no local friends. Socialization happens online. Physical community disappeared. Kids grow up cosmopolitan and lonely, connected to everywhere, belonging nowhere. Global citizens without home. Digital natives without physical place. Healthcare became world's best by necessity. With millions passing through daily, disease control is existential priority. Atlanta has hospitals rivaling any globally, but they're designed for acute care, not continuity. Treat and release. Nobody has primary care physician because nobody stays long enough. Medicine became emergency response, not ongoing relationship. Healthcare is excellent and impersonal. Healing without caring. Treatment without relationship. Medicine as transit. The art scene died gradually, then suddenly. Artists need community, time, and cheap rent. Atlanta offers none. Creative people fled to cities where life costs less and moves slower. The thriving hip-hop scene that defined Atlanta vanished by 2050. Theater closed. Galleries emptied. Art requires roots. Transit culture is rootless. What remains is corporate art. Commissioned pieces in terminals, algorithm-curated exhibits, entertainment as amenity. Creativity died. Decoration survived. Sports survived by becoming global. The Falcons, Hawks, and Braves have fans worldwide who hyperloop in for games, attending in person despite living continents away. Season ticket holders include people from Tokyo, London, and Sao Paulo. Geography stopped limiting fan base. Teams became global brands with local stadiums. But game day atmosphere changed. Nobody tailgates anymore. They arrive from Hyperloop terminals minutes before kickoff. Ritual died. Attendance remained. Community became transaction. The African American community that built Atlanta was displaced by 2050. Historic neighborhoods gentrified beyond recognition. Culture was archived in museums, while living communities scattered. The civil rights history remains, but the descendants don't. Heritage became tourism. Memory became marketing. Atlanta preserved its history while eliminating the people who created it. The paradox: the city celebrates its past while preventing its future. Honor without inheritance. Relationships became impossible. How do you date when you're leaving tomorrow? How do you build friendship with people passing through? Atlanta has the highest rate of transactional intimacy. Hookup culture without possibility of more. Dating apps match people by layover schedule. Relationships last hours, maybe days. Love requires permanence impossible in Transit City. Intimacy exists. Connection doesn't. Sex survives. Romance dies. Bodies meet. Souls don't. Environmental sustainability is remarkable. With no manufacturing and optimized transit, Atlanta became North America's cleanest city. Air quality rivals wilderness. Energy comes entirely from solar arrays covering terminal roofs. Water recycling is perfect. Zero waste to landfills. Atlanta solved environmental crisis by eliminating everything except movement. The city is ecologically perfect because it barely exists as city. Sustainability through non-existence. Green through emptiness. Food culture adapted entirely to travelers. Atlanta has 10,000 restaurants, all in terminals. Every cuisine exists. Quality is excellent, but everything is optimized for speed. Michelin star meals in 30 minutes. No lingering over coffee. No multi-hour dinners. Eating became fuel stop. Cuisine survived. Dining died. Food is excellent and meaningless. Taste without experience. Consumption without ritual. Meals as pit stops between destinations. Mental health crisis emerged by 2060. Transient lifestyle created epidemic of anxiety and depression. Humans need place, need permanence, need home. Constant movement is psychologically destructive. Therapists are Atlanta's growth profession. But therapy can't fix situational problems. You can't treat environmental disease. The solution is staying still. Nobody does. Mental health services treat symptoms of problem nobody will address. Band-aids on bullet wounds. Children raised in Atlanta show disturbing patterns. They're comfortable with constant change and incapable of deep attachment. Psychologists identify transit syndrome, adaptation to impermanence that becomes pathology. These kids will lead the world but won't feel at home anywhere. They're supremely functional and profoundly damaged. Optimized for transience, but unable to build lasting anything. The future is theirs. They'll never enjoy it. The elderly disappeared. Atlanta has the lowest senior population of any major city. Old people need roots, need familiar places, need community memory. Transit City offers none. Retirees flee to smaller cities. Atlanta became young person's city not by design, but by natural selection. The place selects for who can survive it. Those who can't leave or die. Demographics as Darwinism. Age as incompatibility with place. Religion adapted or died. Churches require consistent congregations. Transit population makes that impossible. Megachurches survived by becoming event venues. Weekend services for travelers. Small neighborhood churches closed. Spirituality exists, but organized religion struggles. Faith needs community. Community needs permanence. Permanence doesn't exist. Religious practice became individual. Collective worship died. Prayer survived, but communion didn't. God remained, but fellowship vanished. The corporate headquarters concentration is staggering. Why maintain offices in multiple cities when employees can Hyperloop from anywhere? Companies consolidated in Atlanta. Work from home evolved into work from everywhere while the office stays Atlanta. Morning meetings include people who woke in Seattle, London, and Mumbai. Geography became irrelevant to employment. Atlanta headquartered 70% of Fortune 500 companies not through attraction, but through infrastructure. Headquarters without headquarters city. Surprisingly, gardening became obsession. People desperate for permanence grow plants. Container gardens in terminal apartments. Green spaces in Hyperloop stations. The need to nurture something stationary manifested as agriculture. Gardening is rebellion. Growing food that can't move is resistance against transit culture. Plants require staying. Caring for them requires being there. Gardening became political act. Agriculture as anchoring. Growth as refusal to keep moving. Music changed profoundly. Live performances still exist, but audiences are entirely transient. No local music scene. Every show is opening night to audience who'll never return. Musicians play for strangers exclusively. The relationship between artist and audience died. Performances became exhibitions, not conversations. Music survived. Musical community didn't. Atlanta has excellent music and no music culture. Sound without scene. Performance without community. Public libraries evolved into transit lounges. Books exist, but are secondary. Libraries provide quiet space, Wi-Fi, and comfort between connections. Reading happens, but community doesn't. The library as civic institution died. The library as amenity thrived. Knowledge access remained, but knowledge community vanished. Information without discussion. Learning without teaching. Books without book culture. Space without place. Crime is peculiar. Theft is nearly impossible. Everyone is tracked everywhere. Violent crime is low. Nobody stays long enough for feuds. But transit crime is rampant. Smuggling, trafficking, and financial fraud thrive. Atlanta is conduit for global criminal networks. Law enforcement fights crime that passes through but doesn't stay. Criminals use transit infrastructure exactly like everyone else. Crime became flow, not presence. Criminality as transit. The homeless population is invisible by design. Homelessness in transit hub disrupts flow. Atlanta implemented aggressive removal policies. Homeless people are relocated to cities willing to receive them or incarcerated. The economic model requires constant movement. Stagnation breaks the system. Those who can't move must be removed. Homelessness isn't solved but displaced. Out of Atlanta means solved for Atlanta. Flow requires removing obstacles, including people. Weather modification technology operates at massive scale. Atlanta can't tolerate flight delays. Atmospheric processors create perfect weather constantly. 72 degrees, light breeze, minimal clouds. Seasons disappeared. Weather became schedule variable to optimize. Nature bowed to transit requirements. Atlanta has no winter, summer, spring, or fall. Just optimal flight conditions. Climate control achieved. Climate experience eliminated. Weather became infrastructure component. Surprisingly, addiction rates are low. Not because people are healthy, but because substance abuse requires stability. Addicts need routines. Transit life has none. Problem exists, but manifests differently: gambling, shopping, work addiction. Behavioral addictions, compatible with movement. Chemical dependencies require settling. Atlanta naturally selects against addiction forms requiring permanence. Health through incompatibility. Wellness through inhospitability to certain problems. Language evolved uniquely. Atlanta developed Transit Pidgin, simplified English optimized for international travelers. Complex grammar disappeared. Efficiency dominated. The language is functional and culturally empty. Nobody speaks beautiful English in Atlanta anymore. Communication survived. Expression died. Language became tool divorced from culture. Words without poetry. Speech without style. Efficiency killed elegance. The concept of neighborhood died. Atlanta has zones: residential zone, transit zone, commercial zone. But neighborhoods require identity, history, community. Atlanta has none. Geographic divisions are functional, not cultural. Nobody knows their neighbors, because neighbors are whoever's layover coincides. Local disappeared. Everything became transitory. Place names exist, but mean nothing. Geography without identity. Location without community. Space without place. Fashion became purely functional. Nobody dresses to impress locals. Everyone's leaving. Clothing optimized for travel comfort and climate control. Style died. Utility won. Atlanta street fashion is athleisure and comfortable shoes. Beauty is impractical. Expression is inefficient. Fashion became uniform. Individual style disappeared into transit pragmatism. Clothes became gear. Appearance became optimization. Style died for comfort. Journalism evolved into real-time reporting. No investigative work. Everything is breaking news. Transient population won't read long form. Analysis requires attention span nobody has. News became headline service. Depth died. Coverage exists, but understanding doesn't. Atlanta journalism reports everything and explains nothing. Information without context. Facts without meaning. News as notification service. Surprisingly, weddings became growth industry. Couples from worldwide get married in Atlanta between flights. Wedding chapels in terminals operate 24/7. Marriages are quick, cheap, and completely transactional. The ceremony is 30 minutes. Romance is optional. Efficiency is mandatory. Marriage survived by becoming transit service. Commitment became paperwork processed between connections. Love optional. Convenience essential. Historical preservation became theme park. The Martin Luther King Jr. Historic Site, the Carter Center, the Atlanta History Center, all exist but feel fake. They're maintained but not lived. History without historical community is museum. The places are real, but the connection is severed. Heritage exists, but inheritance doesn't. Atlanta remembers its past while ensuring nobody who made that past can afford the present. Memory without continuity. Parenting in Atlanta is impossible. How do you raise children in perpetual transit? Parents work for companies requiring constant travel. Kids are raised by AI tutors and virtual communities. Family dinners don't happen because family members are in different time zones. Childhood requires stability. Atlanta offers none. Either you leave to raise kids or you don't have them. Family became incompatible with Transit City. Parenting as elsewhere activity. The pets that survived are portable. Small dogs that fit in carriers. Cats stayed home. Large breeds disappeared. Pet ownership adapted to travel requirements or died. People still need companionship, but only forms compatible with Hyperloop. Animals became accessories sized for baggage allowance. The human-animal bond survived by shrinking. Love adapted to logistics. Companionship fit to luggage. Voting became theoretical. Atlanta residents vote but barely influence anything. Transit workers come from everywhere. Elected officials serve population that exists for hours. Local governance is irrelevant when population is transient. Democracy requires citizens. Atlanta has customers. Political engagement died. Governance became service provision. Citizenship became consumer relationship. Politics as amenity. Democracy as infrastructure management. Economic inequality is visible but transient. Wealthy people pass through first class. Poor people work service jobs. But both are temporary. Inequality exists in moments, not generations. No permanent underclass because nobody's permanent. The injustice is real but unstable. Class exists without class warfare because nobody stays long enough for consciousness to form. Exploitation is real, but resistance is impossible. Injustice without politics. Inequality without revolution. Funeral industry adapted darkly. Death in transit is common. People pass away in Atlanta airports. Bodies are shipped home. Mourning happens elsewhere. Atlanta has industrial-scale morgues and death logistics. Dying became transit problem. Death as shipping challenge. Bodies became packages. Atlanta handles death with same efficiency as everything else. Clinical. Efficient. Completely inhuman. Death without dignity. Passing without mourning. Surprisingly, astronomy clubs thrived. People desperate for permanent things look to stars. Constellations don't move. Celestial objects provide stability transit culture lacks. Rooftop observatories filled with people seeking unchanging sky. Stars became anchors. Cosmos provided permanence. Looking up was looking for home. Heaven more stable than Earth. Astronomy as therapy. Stars as psychological stability. Social movements can't form. Protest requires sustained presence. Organization needs time. Activism demands community. Atlanta offers none. Injustices exist, but resistance doesn't. The system is immune to change because nobody stays long enough to change it. Problems are endured individually, never addressed collectively. Political power requires permanence. Transit culture eliminates possibility of organized resistance. Oppression without revolution. Problems without solutions. Memory itself became problematic. How do you remember place you never stop moving through? Personal memories of Atlanta are indistinguishable from airports worldwide. The city has no unique memory signature. Places blend. Experiences merge. Atlanta is everywhere and nowhere. Memory requires distinctiveness. Transit culture provides sameness. The city people pass through most is the city nobody remembers. Forgotten while present. Invisible through ubiquity. The few people who stayed true Atlantans are like anthropological curiosities. Researchers study them. How do you maintain identity in Transit Hub? How do you build community in Perpetual Departure Lounge? These residents developed coping mechanisms. Hyperlocal focus, intentional rootedness, deliberate slowness. They resist transit culture through stillness. Staying became political act. Permanence as rebellion. Home as resistance. The question emerged, is Atlanta still a city? Cities require citizens. Atlanta has users. Cities have culture. Atlanta has services. Cities build community. Atlanta processes traffic. Philosophers debate whether Atlanta qualifies as city or as new category entirely. Infrastructure masquerading as place. Network pretending to be community. System cosplaying as society. Function without form. Movement without meaning. Other cities study Atlanta with horror and fascination. Is this the future? Every city becoming transit hub? Community dying everywhere? Or is Atlanta unique? The one place that sacrificed everything for movement? Urban planners can't decide if Atlanta is warning or inevitable. Blueprint or cautionary tale? The answer probably both. Atlanta showed what's possible. Whether it's desirable remains unanswered. Success and catastrophe look identical from distance. Yet the system works. 20 million people move through Atlanta daily without chaos. Efficiency is remarkable. Logistics are flawless. From technical perspective, it's triumph. Greatest transportation hub ever built. But triumph feels hollow. Atlanta succeeded at movement while failing at life. Perfected transit while eliminating community. Optimized flow while destroying place. The city works brilliantly for everyone except people trying to live there. Children born in Atlanta ask their parents, "Where are we from?" The question has no answer. Born in transit hub between everywhere. Native to nowhere. These kids are literally from Atlanta, but ontologically from nothing. They belong to system, not place. To network, not community. Their first generation truly global and truly homeless. Citizens of world and residents of nowhere. Cosmopolitan and rootless. Connected and utterly alone. The elderly who remember old Atlanta speak of it mythically. The city of neighborhoods and porches and Sunday dinners. Their grandchildren listen with incomprehension. That Atlanta sounds fictional. Could cities really work that way? People actually stayed? Knew their neighbors? The past became fantasy. 3 generations and living memory expires. Soon nobody will remember Atlanta was once a place where people lived, not just passed through. History becomes legend. Truth becomes myth. Surprisingly, poetry experienced renaissance. Transit workers write obsessively. Short poems about displacement, about movement, about never arriving. The literature of transit became genre. These aren't great poems, but they're honest, capturing unique psychological experience of living nowhere while connecting everywhere. Art emerged from dysfunction, creativity from crisis, expression from emptiness. Poetry as documentation of new human condition. Words capturing what no one knew how to name. The concept of local died completely. Local food means food consumed here, not produced here. Local business means business operating here, not owned here. Local resident means someone present now, not someone staying. Local lost all meaning. Everything is global or nothing is. The distinction collapsed. Atlanta proved that hyperconnectivity eliminates locality entirely. When everywhere is accessible, nowhere is home. Globalization achieved total victory. Local was casualty. Healthcare workers face unique burnout. Patients pass through. Follow-up is impossible. Outcomes unknown. You treat someone's heart attack, then never know if they lived. Medicine became intervention without relationship. Caring without continuation. Doctors report profound dissatisfaction despite excellent facilities and pay. Healing requires knowing what happens. Transit medicine provides no closure. Treatment without outcomes. Caring without knowing. Medicine as incomplete stories. Time perception changed fundamentally. In Transit Hub, time is only scheduling variable. Past and future don't exist, only arrival and departure times. Present is perpetual. Atlanta exists in eternal now. Historical consciousness disappeared. Future planning is impossible. Only current moment matters. This temporal flattening has psychological effects researchers are only beginning to understand. Living in perpetual present sounds Buddhist until you realize it's actually hell. Eternal now without mindfulness. Present without presence. Surprisingly, book clubs formed among terminal workers. People who can't have other forms of community create literary ones. They read together, discuss together, but never see each other outside meetings. Books provide the continuity life doesn't. Characters who stay in stories when nothing else stays. Fiction as stability. Literature as permanence. Reading together became desperate attempt at connection. Books can't save them, but they try anyway. Literature as life raft. The ultimate irony. Atlanta connected the world so effectively that Atlanta itself became unnecessary. Why have headquarters in Atlanta when perfect connectivity means headquarters can be anywhere? The very success that built Atlanta could destroy it. Companies are already relocating. Why be in hub when hub is everywhere? Atlanta may have created the technology that makes Atlanta obsolete. The connector connected itself out of relevance. Infrastructure so perfect it eliminates need for itself. The question nobody wants to ask, what happens to Atlanta when transportation evolves beyond physical? Virtual reality meetings, holographic presence, quantum teleportation experiments, all suggest future where bodies don't need to move. If you can be anywhere digitally, why go anywhere physically? Atlanta bet everything on transportation. What happens when transportation becomes obsolete? The hub of nowhere going nowhere. Infrastructure for movement when movement stops. Future built on premise that might become false. Atlanta 2075 stands as monument to human ingenuity and human folly. We connected the world perfectly. We moved 20 million people daily without chaos. We conquered distance and defeated geography. We built greatest transportation hub in history. And we destroyed what cities are for in the process. Atlanta proved we can connect everyone to everywhere while connecting no one to anything. The hub of the world became the home of no one. This is the future, efficient, optimized, empty. Welcome to Atlanta. Please proceed to your gate. This has been Atlanta 2075, the new transportation hub. We connected the world. We lost our home. The question remains, what good is arriving everywhere if you never belong anywhere?